Hi, and welcome to Wedding Tips. Today we're going to be discussing how to make this wedding so uniquely you, because that's what this wedding day is about, you and your love story, right? So we're going to be talking about traditions, how to break them, how to change them, how to get rid of them, how you want your wedding to look like. So we're going to go through 12 ways you can take a tradition and change it up. You may like these ideas, you may not like these ideas, but the whole point is to just get your brain working on what you can do to make your wedding you. That's what it's all about. Okay, so the first is, we all have seen that adorable little flower girl, right? The one that's walking down the aisle and is so cute in a little puffy dress and all that. A great change up is, instead of it having to be a little girl in your life that you may not have, it can just be a flower person. It can be your grandmother. It can be your fun, silly guy friend. It can be a little nephew you have or a son you have. It doesn't have to be what you have in your head of the past. There's this wonderful fun of, imagine your grandmother. She's somebody who's been near and dear to your heart, but you don't have something that's in your wedding that is so specific for her to be able to do. But in this, she could feel like so a part of the moment, and it's celebrating the entirety of her life and the beauty that she is, and even more so her connection to this situation. Say her husband's died recently, like how meaningful and moving that can be. Or if you have a little boy in your life who, you know what, you just want to accept him exactly how he is, and you want to demystify the whole situation, that it's okay to be anything and whoever. Or you could get your funny guy friend and you want to have humor in your wedding. And so you give that guy friend a fanny pack full of flower petals. There's no one who's going to be able to resist laughing at a man having so much fun throwing down petals. Or you could have a girlfriend do it, and she could go full into it, like she's acting like the little girl, or any number of ways. Like, the whole idea is just to take the tradition and throw it on its head, or throw it out however it looks. You can also just not have one. That goes without saying. Okay, so number two, another tradition that is so common is a white dress. It meant a whole bunch of different things, and that may or may not mean something to you. If it doesn't mean something to you, guess what? There are so many fantastic people out there making dresses that have color, splashes of color, hints of color, or just flagrant color for the whole thing. A white dress may or may not be for you. And if it's not, that is a great way to make your wedding stand out. A great wedding for a wow factor. And bonus and amazingness of it is it can reflect more of who you are and your personality. Okay, so this might be a hot topic, but there are some traditions in weddings that, you know what, they're kind of outdated, and a lot of guests don't necessarily like them. And I think we all know what I'm talking about. We're talking about the bouquet test and the garter toss. There's going to be a lot of people at your wedding, and maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you don't want to do this, but maybe just toss that out. Maybe toss the tradition out instead of tossing the bouquet or the garter belt. Instead, you can just celebrate in a different way. I love the way, or the idea of, instead of specifically shoehorning a very small population of your wedding guests, you could do a loco hour on your dance floor where you get a whole bunch of glow sticks and boa feather necklace things. What are those called? Boas? I don't know. Boas, I think it's anyway. But you get some of those. You get funny headgear or balloons. Any number of crazy things, and you put on club rave music or whatever music that it feeds your soul, and you dim the lights down and you go crazy for like 15 minutes on the dance floor. There's a lot of different ways. That's just an example of a way that you can take out an old tradition and you can bring in something else that reflects you more so. Okay, another one is, you don't have to do rings how everybody else does. So yeah, you can do not a ring at all. You can do a tattoo, or you can do a ring that more reflects you. It doesn't have to be a diamond. It doesn't have to be any number of things. This whole thing is just to break free from the idea that anything that you've seen before you're required to do, because you know what? You're not. The beautiful thing about your wedding and your love story is it's yours. So Whatever resonates with you, not just what you've been told, not just what you thought, just break free and figure out what that looks like together. Okay, here's another one. And this one might be a little hot topic too. So we've all heard of the tradition of the bride coming out the door and that big wow moment where they see their spouse to be, and it's just this crazy, amazing. And we've all heard about, or maybe not all, but it's becoming more popular to do what's called a modern first look, where you see each other beforehand in this intimate moment after you've gotten ready, and you get it captured by a photographer and you do all your pictures beforehand, and all of that's fantastic and wonderful. And that's a good change up from the original tradition. But there's an even more crazy one. You're about to spend forever with this person. And this may not be for everybody. To be honest, I don't know if it'd be for me. But I think it's a wild and crazy idea that you two could get together and get ready together, so that your entire wedding day is a reflection of your love story and how you're going to be moving forward and doing life together. You could have all of the people who are closest to you, all of your bridal party right there with you getting ready. Of course, there's going to be moments where you're not all together, but like, it's the idea of the community and you being with the person that you want to be with for the rest of your life, the entire part of your wedding day, instead of it being so much of your day being spent separate. Okay, yet another one. Here we go. Okay. You don't have to have the same gender as yours in your bridal party. It can be anybody you love. If you have bridesmaids, they can be bridesmen. If you have groomsmen, they can be groomgals. It doesn't have to matter what the gender of a person is. It can just be whoever it is that resonates with you and whoever has been alongside of you in this journey of making your love story come to this place. I think we're at number 6 at this point. Let's talk about the exit, right? So we all have seen bubbles. We've seen birdseed. We've seen lightsabers. We've seen sparklers. But here's a buck wild idea. Instead of doing an exit where you have this grand situation where you have to run through, and half the time, if your guests are, you have a decent number of your guests that are older, a lot of them have gone, do a group photo at the end. Your hardcore group that stayed with you all the way to the end, the ones that are your ride or die kind of people, get them together and you do a photo. Like, do a silly photo, do a fun photo, do a dancing photo. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's a great change up from what is a normal tradition. Okay, number 7. And this is somewhat occurs, but in your bridal party, whether guys or gals or whatever, you don't have to have the same colors or textures. Get various colors, get various textures, get an array, you can even, if you want a little bit of a matching feel, you can pick several colors, or you could pick, just gray, somewhere in the gray family, but there's a wide array of what that would look like. But the difference of texture, the difference of color can allow you and your wedding and your pictures in the day, it can have such a more vibrant feel. It can have such a more wow for you. It can make it go from being just like everybody else's wedding to being your wedding, depending on whether that fits for you. Maybe your wedding, and maybe it is the picture perfect, and that's great too. The whole thing with this, again, is just to figure out what your wedding day should look like, because the wedding day should reflect who you are. This one's going to be one that's hard for people to hear, okay? Number 8 or 9 at this point, gosh, is limit your guests. I know that's a really hard one, okay? So we're going to get into it. Often when you are coming up with your guest list, you have like these people and you're writing a list, but then, there's like, if you're going to invite Zachary, then you have to invite, Marianne, and if you invite Marianne, you have to invite Susan. If you invite Susan, you have to invite Alexa. If you invite Lexi, you have to invite George, and it starts stacking and stacking and stacking. A great thing that I ask all of my couples is, when you're making your guest list, if you wouldn't buy that person a $90 gift for their birthday, If you couldn't think of something that you would want to get that person for $90, then maybe question whether they should be on your wedding guest list. Because I know there's a lot of weight from families, a lot of weight from tradition, a lot of different things about who needs to be at your wedding. And I'm going to free you here. No one has to be at your wedding. You choose who has to be at your wedding. Who are your people that you feel like this is a must? This is a have to. If somebody else is paying for the wedding, yeah, of course, there's going to be some give and take on what that looks like as well. So you don't have necessarily as much freedom, but you can choose. If you want everybody in your mother's brother, you can. That can reflect you, and that can be what it is. But often I find that people end up inviting and having these giant weddings, not because they want to have it, but because somebody else is giving a lot of pressure, or they internally have a lot of pressure. They feel guilty. They feel you don't need to. This is your wedding. This is about your love story coming to this place. If you want to have an intimate moment with your closest friends, have that. If you want to have a big, giant party with everybody that's ever been on your friends list, you go girl, go boy, go any of that. Just make sure that you're not putting people on the list because of guilt. Don't put people on the list who you don't care if they're there or they're not. Because this wedding should reflect your love story. This wedding is representing the life that you are wanting to live. All right. Here's another one. Instead of doing bridesmaids bouquets, instead of doing those, maybe change it out. Sometimes people don't know what to do with their hands, so you could come up with something like, if you're doing a boho wedding, a tambourine could be a great option. Even if the tambourine parts don't actually make noise, because you may not want to have them make noise. You could put cotton between them. Or you could be any number of other things. You could do a favorite book. You could have this is a way to personalize. You could have each bridesmaid pick out one of their favorite books and walk down the aisle with that. It could be the fact that they have a bridesmaid crown or a bride's guy crown. Or they have cuffs now that you can do. Or you could have them do a ring. They have these wonderful, there's so many different ways that you can have somebody hold something or not hold something that will make your wedding stand out, that will maybe reflect more of what your heart is in this. If you're a Harry Potter fan, have them all walk down with wands. I mean, that one struck a chord in my heart because I am a big Harry Potter fan. Anyway. Okay, so here's the last one. So I guess I miscounted at some point. The last one is the tradition of getting walked down the aisle, of being given away. This is a thing that's been around for a really long time, and there's a lot of history for it that you may or may not resonate with. For me, I don't resonate with it, but that's neither here nor there because this wedding is about you. So here are some alternatives. Maybe you will like them, maybe you won't. But you could ditch it to the side and not have anybody walk you down. You walk down. You can do it where your spouse-to-be comes and they walk you down. And you walk down together as a unified front, where you both are going to take this on together as equal partners. Or you could throw it on his head. If you're a bride and you have a groom, instead of the bride coming towards the groom, you could be the person who's there at the altar. I know, that's going to be a little insulting for some people, but the idea is simply, it can be anything. The takeaway from this entire thing isn't the list that I've given. It's 12 long, and you know what? That's a really short list. The idea isn't about the 12 that I've listed here. The idea is for me to help encourage you that this wedding day, your wedding day, is not about anything other than your love story. You are coming here and doing this amazing, life-altering, huge choice and doing it in front of people. Let that choice, let that moment, let this whole experience showcase and shine why we're here in the first place. What is it about you two that shows up here? What about your love story comes here? Make that shine true. Make that be seen and felt in your wedding day. It doesn't matter that you check the boxes. It matters that this moment reflects the importance of how the two of you are coming together to start a brand new life forever. I hope these helped, or if nothing else, it got your brain churning on how to make this wedding so completely you. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to hear you hope you tune in next time. Wow, my mouth.